What's going on, everyone? So I wanted to repost our opening panel from our Curbivore conference that we held in March 2023 in downtown Los Angeles. I really like this opening panel we did because we had Uber Eats head of grocery David Meers, a local courier turned shopper for Uber Eats named Mariana, and we also had Erewhon's chief revenue officer Kabir Jain. They're a big grocery partner for Uber Eats. And so the conference was a big success this year. We had about 750 registered attendees, great weather, lots of free food and drinks, tons of conversations, and I think everyone just had a lot of fun, learned a lot, and I think this event has traditionally been more of an industry event, people speaking on panels from the companies, and I thought this panel was a cool way to get drivers involved and share their experience. Mariana is an actual courier, as you'll hear. And she has a ton of experience delivering. She actually used to be a food delivery driver and then switched to grocery shopping for Uber Eats. So I think that was kind of cool to hear why and, kind of her preferences there. A lot of people obviously are familiar with rideshare and delivery, and grocery shopping is on the newer side, but it's quite different. You have to deal with a lot of personal preferences. So I thought that was cool to hear from Mariana and kind of learn what she liked, what she didn't like. And I think the other cool thing we did at this year's event, we did a big delivery driver meetup. So we actually flew in Pedro Santiago into Los Angeles. We had Sergio from our weekly live show, Show Me the Money Club. We had the Rideshare professor show up. We also had Luis Berti from Delivery TV, who runs a great YouTube channel for the Hispanic community. Hannibal is Hungry. And I think about close to 75 drivers actually showed up on site. Some even came as far as Syracuse. So big shout out. I think we had one of our SMTMC viewers come all the way from Syracuse to attend, and all the drivers kind of came. They got to meet the YouTubers, they got to network with a lot of the driver support companies that we had on site, like Solo, Para, Stuvo, Beans, Greedwise, and more. Listen to some panels, enjoy free food, free drinks, the after party, and just kind of have a lot of fun. So it definitely was a big success, and I think we'll be leaning into that more at next year's event and see what else we can do for the driver community, getting them involved, sharing their perspective, and kind of keeping things fun and light and everyone learning and getting better together. So hopefully you will enjoy this panel, and let me know what you think in the comments.
Welcome to the Rideshare Guy podcast, where you will learn about the rideshare and mobility industry straight from Harry Campbell, who's got over 5 years experience covering the industry and has talked to thousands of drivers. There's no better place to stay up to date, entertained, and educated. So let's dive in.
Welcome everyone to the second in-person Curbivore. I'm really excited to see everyone, and I'm really excited to do this panel. I just realized I forgot my Erewhon juice over there somewhere, but it'll be waiting for me when I come back. Let me try this. All right, let's try this one. So for our opening panel today, I'm really excited to have Uber Eats, Erewhon, and one of their local courier turned shoppers. As you guys know, I started the Rideshare Guy, or some of you may know, I started the Rideshare Guy about 9 years ago. And so one of the things I really like about this conference is bringing together people from all sides of the value chain, from different, from the platforms to the retailers to the actual couriers out there doing the deliveries, the vehicle manufacturers. And so I think we've done a cool job gathering that today. So I'm really excited here to have David Meers, head of grocery and retail fulfillment products at Uber. Mariana Russi, she's an LA courier turned shopper and aspiring life coach. And Kabir Jain, chief growth officer at Erewhon. So really excited to have all three of you. I'll give each of you a few seconds to intro yourself, and we'll get started.
Yeah, sure. I can get started. Thanks for having us, Harry. I'm David. I lead the fulfillment team at Uber Eats. So my team focuses on everything to do with how shoppers like Mariana get the tools they need to successfully fulfill groceries on the platform. And we've been doing that for about 2 years. It's been a great ride.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mariana, and I'm very glad today to be here. I'm a shopper, a Uber shopper. And I'm very excited. That's it. Let's have some fun.
Hey guys, good morning. So my name is Kabir Jain. I work at Erewhon Market. For those that don't know, we're a chain of grocery stores and cafes across LA. We've got 8 stores, soon to be 9. Been there about 4 years and run most of our digital efforts, hence being here today. And it made me very excited that Mariana said her favorite store to shop in all of LA is Erewhon Market this morning, so my day is done.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to have to dig into that later on in the panel and find out why. But for now, I would love to start with you, David, because obviously everybody knows the Uber name, from taking rides, from ordering food delivery. But tell us about Uber Grocery. When and how did it start and why?
Yeah, absolutely. So Uber's been experimenting with grocery in various different forms over the last several years, but it really got serious about 2 years ago. So obviously during COVID, there was a massive opportunity there, but also it was something that Uber just saw as a natural extension of what we were already doing with food delivery. And so actually when I joined, we built out a dedicated team to make sure we could give grocery the due it needed. It has a lot of different problems, things we need to solve for shoppers, for example, that we just didn't need with the Uber Eats business. So we see it as a great extension, but also something that's needed that dedicated investment.
Yeah. So when you look at Uber's different business lines, I'm thinking rides, food delivery, and grocery, like what stands out? Like why is Uber investing in grocery? Why is it so important? What is the opportunity? Is it more financial? Is it more, building loyalty with customers? If you sort of had to pick one thing that makes, grocery shopping so important to Uber.
Yeah, well, grocery shopping is just a gigantic vertical, right, across the board. So obviously the opportunity is huge for anyone playing in it, multi-trillion-dollar business globally. So there's that aspect to it. But really for our customers, they're already coming to us for a lot of their food needs with Uber Eats. And so we really just saw it as a natural close extension. Like why just stop at prepared meals and restaurant food, but also let them buy food on the platform while they're there with us. And ultimately, we really want you to be able to get anything delivered on Uber, right? Like we want to be your local partner so you can get things delivered from your local merchants at any time you want. And so grocery is just a really large part of that story.
Very cool. And Mariana, I'm going to turn it over to you for a second because I'm really excited to have you on this panel because in my 9 years of working in the gig economy, I've done ride hail, I've done food delivery, I've charged scooters, a few other jobs, but I've never done grocery shopping. So I'm kind of curious to hear from you. What inspired you you used to be a courier, so we're doing more on the food delivery side, and then you switched to shopping. Is that right?
Yes. What I love about shopping is because the miles are shorter, like less, and the money is more. That's basically that. And also, I believe Megan from Uber explained it to me about myself a little bit better. I am a list person, so I love to have my to-do list every day. So I wake up, I do my meditation, I run, and then I work. So I have my things. And the shopping makes me feel more accomplished about it. So, yeah. And also the stores. I do believe people makes the difference. So, I don't know, shopping for me has been a very interesting and beautiful experience.
Got it. And, talk to me too. I know when we were chatting before, you were telling me about some of the, especially when you're first getting started, there were certain stores, you kind of wanted to shop at the ones that you are familiar with. Talk to me about the actual experience and maybe even tell me about, why you've enjoyed your shopping experience at Erewhon. What makes like an enjoyable shopping experience for someone that's shopping for someone else versus, we all have our local grocery stores that we go into. We know where things are. Like what matters to you as an actual shopper? Like what makes a good experience for you when you walk into a grocery or merchant?
Perfect. So I roll. I'm sorry, the name for me is kind of hard. I'm not
Erewhon, right? Is that the official pronunciation?
So, and it's a beautiful name. You can tell when you are in the store that they are training. I said this to him. They are trained to be with the attention full time in the people. So I am there because sometimes, that's how you do. You are trying to find the product and someone is totally paying attention on you. And they come and say, do you need any help? Are you looking something? Are you, And they are not in a rush. When they realize that I'm a shopper, they say, do you want help with something else? I said, yes. and then we just go through the whole list, basically. So, and I know it's not because I'm a shopper. I know this is something that, and I'm not being paid to talk about it. I'm really
Just in juice.
This is, yeah, just the juice. But this is a real experience when you go to that store. Not that other ones doesn't have those people, but it's like a few people doing that. It's not like the whole store trained. And I think the experience in life, who makes it different? It's always people.
Yeah.
And that's my answer, I believe.
Very cool. That's interesting. Kabir, when you talk about, sort of, especially I think for those that are living in LA or native to LA, I think Erewhon, the name, is pretty popular. Everyone knows it who lives in LA. How do you think about working with third-party delivery partners like an Uber Eats? Like, what for you guys? You have people coming into the store. You now have shoppers coming into the store. Like, what are the things that you sort of think about, the balance, the impetus for doing it in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. So pre-COVID and post-COVID are obviously totally different as relates to grocery. We've been partners with Postmates, pre-Uber Eats, for a long time. I mean, I think since 2015 or 2016, one of the first partners in LA. For those that haven't been to Erewhon, it's definitely a unique grocery store in a lot of ways, but one of the ways is our prepared foods or our cafe is almost half of our store. So we're almost equal parts restaurant as we are grocery store. And so that's been an important piece for us. I think working with third parties has been tremendously important because, one, prior to COVID, we didn't have any of our own e-com abilities, right? So that was the only way to get someone anything delivered, whether it was a cappuccino or a burrito or a juice or a dozen eggs, was through the third parties. And then even since then, we have this relationship with third parties that we think is really healthy, where we now have our own e-commerce efforts that we're building and we want to continue to maintain. But third parties are such a big driver of traffic, brand awareness, et cetera, for us that we'll work with them till the end of time. I mean, we like to balance this relationship of owning the customer experience when they come to us, and then when they come to us through an Uber Eats or a Postmates or whoever it is, making that experience the best it can be. So that what that means is a great shopper experience, the right catalog, the right in-stock rates, et cetera, et cetera.
Very cool, very cool. And I think that, when you think about your customers that are coming into the store versus ordering delivery, is one better, worse, same, or the other? Or are you trying to, rising tide lifts all boats? How do you think about sort of that digital ordering through a partner versus, people actually coming into the store? Like, what do you want? What do you want people to do?
I mean, we want people to come in the store, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, like, Erewhon is a very experiential environment. You come in the store, it's unlike most grocery stores you've probably been into, and it's a very memorable experience. And so we want people coming in the store. Now, at the end of the day, if somebody wants to get this juice delivered, we want to make that happen as easy as we can. And, it applies to Erewhon like it applies to probably every business ever, that a digitally native customer is a more valuable customer for us. So if we can have someone ordering online, they're more valuable for us, but we're not trying to prohibit them from coming in the stores. We build our stores very intentionally. We were talking about it earlier today, whether it's the way we design the aisles, the way we design the flow, the lighting, it's all meant to be a very experiential experience, I guess. And so it's very important people keep coming in the stores.
Mariana, so you used to do food delivery, and now you do more shopping, it sounds like. Have you ever done a food delivery order at Erewhon versus sort of a grocery?
Yes.
Yeah. I know my go-to order, by the way, is the salmon and buffalo cauliflower and mac and cheese at Erewhon. Just by the way, they've got a nice combo you can order. What stands out when you walk into an Erewhon, from like either a courier or a shopper perspective?
I think Erewhon has a very interesting logistics when you need to pick up a food, because it's a window outside the store, so you don't need to go through all the store, because usually it's busy, since their experience is to have people in the store.
Yeah.
They are getting that. Usually it's full or packed. And so this is something that, especially after the pandemic, we saw a lot of places organizing the logistics, like from outside to specific for the delivery people, and this helps a lot. The delivery, also the service, because if you have an easy way to get the food, to don't go through the same line of the customers, and you get the food, and you don't feel that you are a problem in the situation, like with the hostess, or you understand. I don't know if I'm putting the right words, but if you have a right place to go outside of the logistics of the place, and you get your food, you're going to be faster. The food is going to arrive better for the clients, so I think everybody's going to be happy in the end.
Well, so you bring up an interesting point that I think a lot of in the sort of courier world, a lot of couriers they talk about certain restaurants, certain retailers are a bit notorious for a not great experience, having to wait, and there's maybe even some that you might want to avoid, right? So, David, when you think about kind of balancing, right, like in an ideal world, right, they might go pick up, it's ready perfectly organized. Like, do you have to sort of coach retailers that you work with, or what are kind of the best practices when you're thinking about balancing that courier shopper experience with your retail partners?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think a lot of it comes down to personal preference for a given courier. And so one thing is that it's always exposed to the courier which retailer they're going to, right? So they can ultimately make that decision of whether they actually want to go on that trip or not. But we do also give feedback to retailers if we hear a consistent trend or if we see something in the data that's not really working well. Actually, one thing we hear about folks that like shopping, like Mariana does, is they actually like that element of control that maybe they wouldn't have with like a restaurant order, right? So restaurant orders are great for a lot of folks, but in that case, the restaurant is the one who's actually designing, or figuring out when the food gets made and whether it's ready. In shopping, the shopper has complete control, right? So that's actually something we hear from folks that they like. They can actually control that workflow. They can do it the way that works for them. And so that's a reason that folks decide to do shopping.
Yeah, no,
one thing just to mention on this point that you made too is, when a shopper comes into our store, they are the customer. Like, there's actually no difference. In fact, we may not even know whether you're an Uber shopper or a normal customer shopping for those 15 groceries. And so from our perspective, it's kind of one and the same. And so I think some of the customer service elements that Mariana likes are, one, I mean, obviously we train for, high quality of standards as relates to customer service, but the people helping you out may not know that you're a shopper or a customer. They shouldn't care even if they did, but it's not like you've got a big Uber sweatshirt and we know what you're doing. You're just there shopping groceries, putting it in the basket and going through the same checkout line as everybody else.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, and I think a really cool way to look at it. I know we've seen some cool things recently, where businesses or actual retailers were developing little pit stops or breaks. I saw one in New York where, hey, delivery drivers kind of come here, hang out, and I think that concept is smart, cool, builds a lot of goodwill. And, as a shopper, if it's a restaurant or a retailer that I want to go into, that I look forward to, I'm probably going to do a better job too. So what's one challenge that you have with grocery shopping? I like how David said, it sounds like you've got, food delivery. It's often just pick up, take it to point B, deliver. With grocery shopping, you've got a little more control. But what's one challenge that often comes up when you're out there shopping?
So I think the biggest challenge is not something that is new for human beings, is communication. So it's a teamwork, what we do. From the first step when the client or customer did the shopping list, before that, of course, Uber developing all the system. But and then when I get that list and the product is not available, when the customer is available and is right on the app, like answering, I want that or I don't want that, makes our life so easier. And not just my life, but his life or her life, because they're expecting those, that shopping. So communication is the key. And I feel since a few months that Uber is doing a lot of improvements, especially in the substitution options, because before was like something that was orange that they were shopping and the substitution options were strawberry. And we were like, we need to take a photo and we need to send a text, So when we have the product available, and we just send to the customer, it's easier for them to see it also. So I think communication, as always, is the biggest challenge.
Well, Mariana, I think this is going to be cool for you because you've got a few hundred people in the audience right now. I'm sure many of whom are customers, on Uber Eats or ordering groceries. So if you had one tip to give to the customers, let's rate them right now and give them one tip. If they were to place an order for groceries with you, what's one thing that they could do to sort of make your life easier?
My life and their life easier is when they are doing their list. I would say it if you don't want a substitution, or choose what you want as a substitution. This is the best, This is going to save our time, and you're going to get what you really want.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that is helpful. And David, I want to ask you, because substitutions, I've noticed, are a big thing when it comes to grocery shopping. And so how do you deal with that, right? Do you have to tie in API to your merchants, or, with couriers? Like, that seems like probably one of the biggest challenges when it comes to grocery shopping and thousands of SKUs and availability and customer preferences. So this sounds like a tough job. So how are you handling it?
Yeah, absolutely. It is one of the hardest problems when building tech for grocery. And so, like you were mentioning, it's really across the entire experience. So it starts with the catalog tools we're offering to merchants and the integrations we have with them, trying to make sure we get the best data that they have. A lot of merchants don't necessarily know exactly what they have in store, though. So then on top of that, we also observe the data over time and try to predict what we think might also be out of stock. And then at that point, prompt customers, like Mariana is saying, to kind of say, hey, can you provide backups for these items because we think these might be out of stock. So we have some experiments running on things like that to try to help with that problem. The other thing that Mariana's noticed, which is great to hear, is that over the last few months, we've launched a lot of new substitution flows, really to try to organize that whole process a lot more and make the communication easier. So that required building things on the consumer app as well as the Courier app, of course, so that they can communicate. We also have chat in the app and phone calling as well, which Mariana said she uses as a last resort if someone's not getting back to her. So really, hitting it across the entire experience. Our goals and balance here are that for consumers, they really want this to be as seamless as possible. They don't want to have to put in a lot of extra work before their order. But ultimately, they want to get an item that they love, right? So we're trying to really target their effort and when they have to get involved to when items are likely to not be available. So that's when they can really coordinate with the courier. And then on the shopper side, we want to make sure that customers are responsive. So we have notifications in the app. We have reminders to them to look out for the app and make sure they respond to the courier. And over time, we're going to keep trying to build that empathy between the two groups so that they can communicate productively together.
Well, so, I know I'm excited to talk to you guys too about we've actually got a few announcements throughout the day today, and I'm excited that Uber Eats will be making the first announcement up here on stage. So I know you've got a few features that you've been adding for on the shopper side. So if you want to talk a little bit about those right now, and, I think it's out now. But
yeah, absolutely. So first I'll talk about live order tracking. And so that ties into this whole substitution experience. It's a new ability that we've given consumers now. So right in the Uber Eats app, you can now see as your order is actually getting shopped. So as Mariana is clicking the buttons in the app in the store, you can see all the updates and see that progress. And so it's also helping with the substitution experience that Mariana was talking about. The other one we've launched recently, which I know Mariana's been using, is offering digital payment cards to couriers. So when couriers go through this workflow, at the end of the process, they pay at the store till, right? And so we've just launched through Apple Pay and Google Pay the ability to use a digital card for that payment so that you don't have to remember your card and maybe forget it at the end of that process, which then is hard for you as a courier. And then finally, we're also enhancing the information that we give to couriers before the trip even starts. So this has not come out yet, but it's launching soon. We're going to add more information, again, to give the couriers control over what trip am I about to go on. I want to make sure I know if things are heavy in the order, how many items are in it, et cetera, just to set them up for success so they know what's coming on the order.
Very cool. Very cool. Mariana, of those three features, which one are you most excited about that you think will make an impact on you going forward?
Definitely the Apple Pay, because 2 weeks before they launched that, I forgot my wallet in one of the stores. And I just realized the next day when I went to the airport to fly to Miami, and I was without my driver's license to check in. So I said, oh my God, where did I left my wallet? And then I realized it was in the store and they saved it to me. So much better. You don't need to carry your wallet, and it's so much easier. The Apple Pay, This was perfect. And I just want to add something. Probably everybody here got a survey like a few weeks ago from Uber, and I answered. And I would like to say that these days communication is everything, and we get a lot of information all the time and surveys everywhere. But I am very happy. I'm just here today because I answered that survey. I gave the suggestions that I really think would help us during our daily work. And then they gave me like a direct email every time that I was having a new idea that could help us during our work. And since then, it's unbelievable, but I'm so creative. Every time that I face something that is challenging, I'm texting them through the email and I'm sending sometimes it's a screenshot of a problem or a challenge, because it's when I'm working, that's when it happens, right? And that's when we can fix it or find a solution. So I'm very happy. I would like to say that it's so fast, everything these days, and I'm very happy to be here because it's like a direct channel. Uber listened and or saw everything that I wrote, and here we are talking about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think kind of before we wrap up here, the last thing I want to touch on is that feedback loop, because I know couriers have a lot to say. I'm sure merchants have a lot to say too with their partners. So, David, how do you think about the feedback that you're hearing from couriers, from your merchant partners, and what are the sort of best practices there, and how you sort of make changes based off of what you're hearing?
Yeah, the first step is just to get out from behind people's desks and make sure we get in the stores frequently. So that's something we do on our team. We also recruit looking for those types of skills and interest, for example. We also listen to couriers directly, like Mariana's saying, of what do they think. It's always fun to shadow somebody doing it, for example, because what I do myself might be different with the app because I built it and know what it does versus watching somebody like Mariana do it. So we do that as well. And then with merchants, we do pretty much the same thing. We get out into merchants, do store checks, talk to them about their processes that might have nothing to do with Uber on the surface level, but it's important that we understand their goals and how they manage inventory, for example. So then we can think about, downstream, how do we deal with those things? So it's really that simple. It's about just prioritizing that as the first thing we always do. And then we do some other things at scale. Like, of course, we look at the data. We run surveys, like Mariana's saying. Every new feature launch has a survey that goes out, so we get feedback. And then we reach out to folks to go deeper. So very, very foundational to what we do at Uber.
Cool. Kabir, anything to add?
No, I mean, Uber's been an amazing partner. We've been partners for a long time. I think the one thing I'll just touch on is because out of stocks and substitutions are such a big topic in this space. And I don't think people realize the big secret in the grocery industry is we don't know what we have in stock. And either does Sprouts or Whole Foods or Target, nobody does. They intentionally don't count it. So I can't tell you how many of these are in any store. When I got to Erewhon, I was like, that's crazy. Just go count it. And you can't. It's too many SKUs. They're too small. There's going to be mistakes. And so you learn to live without knowing what you have in stock. That's just the way you have to operate in the grocery world. And so digitally, it becomes a big problem. And so Uber doesn't know what we have in stock because we don't know what we have in stock. And so everyone's doing their best efforts, and we're running all sorts of calculations to best guess what we have. But that's the reason out of stocks and substitutions become such a problem in the grocery space. And so whoever cracks grocery on-hand inventory will be a deca-billionaire because nobody has figured it out yet. It is the biggest problem.
Well, it sounds like we got to use these shoppers that are in store looking for items and maybe can kind of leave a little note or do some counting and update.
It's a really good idea.
We'll talk about that one off stage. But I really appreciate the three of you joining, David, Mariana, and Kabir. Really interesting panel. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.